Go. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited. I'm Jennifer Britton, and welcome to our 21st annual virtual holiday party here at Potentials Realized. I'm the CEO and founder of an organization called Potentials Realized. We like to think of ourselves as a one-stop shop for all things group and team coaching. And this decade, we're on a mission to support 5 million conversations that help people move through change and collaboration, teamwork, and business success. So we do that a lot through you as coaches, and we're pretty well known in the coaching world for our work in the coaching space, specifically around group coaching and team coaching. So today I'm co-hosting with Evana, who is she's my podcast co-host, but she's also our team lead for group coaching. So Ivana, I'm going to see if I can actually make you a co-host as well.
Okay.
We have an AI in the room outside, which we're not going to let in. But as you see people come in, please let them on in. So Ivana, do you want to say anything as we get kicked off on our 1 hour call today?
Yeah, just again, welcome everyone. It is an honor to be here. Hi, Mindy. You've come in just after we started, so just want to welcome you personally and just want to celebrate Potentials Realized, but celebrate the community that, Jen and I really stand for. And we get on these podcast calls and record every Tuesday. We do community calls, but it really is in service of you and also your communities, because that really is the ripple effect that we stand for here at Potentials Realized. So thank you for creating an hour of your day to be here with us. And we really do acknowledge you and celebrate you, and we want to celebrate with you. So let's jump in, Jen.
Let's jump in and like happy holidays. So,
Yeah,
wherever you are joining us around the world, and we do
yeah.
have a global community of coaches. I think one of the big shifts in 2024 has been people are joining asynchronously. I am always amazed when I go to our YouTube channel, which is Effective Group Coach, to see how many people are watching our videos. And people
Mhm.
reach out through the chat, the comments. They also reach out a lot by email and even WhatsApp these days to say, thank you for what you're doing. So I'm coming at you, and if you look at the graphic here, which was created by AI, I am on the I'm on the shoreline of Lake Simcoe, about an hour north of Toronto today. Looking out my window, I see the lake, but behind me, I have a blue lighthouse. And if some of you are aware of my story in 2019, so the business started in 2004, right? I opened the doors metaphorically the day after April Fool's Day here in Canada, wanting to serve and continue to create a ripple effect with the work and conversations that I had hoped to have. Here we are 20 and a half years later, and our office has moved between Toronto and Muskoka, where I am in the summer months. And in 2019, I had this vision that what if as a business, we could actually start to really impact people on a much greater scale, not only through live programs, but through my writing, through our different product offerings. And I had this vision of a lighthouse being the beacon for professionals, specifically in the virtual and remote world, to come together for community. What's really neat is now where I live, there is a lighthouse that is blue that is just about a kilometer up the road. As I drive in off the main road, there is a lighthouse. And it's a reminder for me literally every day of why I do the work. So I hope today, in addition to having fun and connecting, this is an opportunity for you to also connect in with your mandate and your vision and your mission. Where do you want to go? We'd love to hear from you in chat. We're going to use chat today. It's great to see more than a dozen of you live with us. Tell us what you're excited about as we step into a new year. And so, in order to do that, here's what I want to share with you. This is one of our latest products. This is the Conversation Sparker Charm Set. We've sold hundreds of these this year, which has been amazing. And it's an opportunity to really dive deeply into charms and metaphors. So I'd love for you as you check in on chat, what is the image that sets up your or sums up your intention for the coming weeks as we get into the end of the year? I know for me, I am really looking forward to not only putting my glasses on, but I'm also looking forward to sort of grabbing that energy of the stars. Outside my door as well, where I live, we have a very common boardwalk area, and so people come here in the holiday season because there are igloos and there are a lot of Christmas decorations, like a 25-foot Christmas tree, literally outside my door. I don't decorate it, I just go and enjoy it. But I'm going to really enjoy some time looking at the stars and just wondering in the magic of this season. We're staying here, we're not traveling this year. And as some of you know, my dad passed away a few months ago. And I think this time of year is really important to just reconnect with family and be together. So that's the image I'm going to latch onto this season is really reach for the stars because I think our work as coaches, for those of you that are coaches or leaders, is even more important today than it ever has been. And you've heard me say that for a couple of years, but with the advent of AI and all of the changes that are happening around the world, people are yearning and desperate at sometimes for connection and true conversation. And as coaches, this is our superpower collectively. So, Ivana, if I can get you to share anything that's coming in on chat, do we have anyone sharing what their metaphor is?
We do. We do. So, Michael, thank you, Michael, for starting the conversation here. So, Michael says possibilities to engage with people on a deeper level. I like the starfish. No two are the same, and they each have special qualities and want to become alive. Beautiful.
Amazing. What
Mhm.
else? What else are people grabbing onto? And Ivana, maybe you can share what you are embracing or going to wrap your arms around with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I do, let more people in the
Yeah,
room. So,
I
Angie's
got it.
coming
I
in.
got your back here.
Thank you,
So
girl. Okay, so I picked the airplane because for me, I'm actually going to be flying to the south of Italy in 11 days because I live in Italy for those of you who don't know me. And so we're going to be flying south to spend time with family. So it is the holiday season. And metaphorically, it's also 2025. I'm really wanting to kind of get above the clouds, get above my belief systems, and really fly, like really bring new products. Like I did the writing sprint with you. So I'm hoping to bring the book over the finish line in 2025. And so to me, it's really about flying and also knowing that I've got my propellers to keep me going. That's mine for now. Do you want me to
fantastic.
keep
Well, we've
going
got
down
some
the
really
list,
great
Jen?
comments. We won't spend much longer here, but I do want to bring your voices. It's in. Angie says mine is the interlinked hearts, leaning into connection across the period, both personally and professionally. Mindy had the starfish comment. Lindsay, do you want to say where you're coming from in chat as well? Lindsay is also expanding our web. The book reflects my desire to embrace learning and expansion. Carissa's here. I hope you're staying warm, Carissa. Good to see you. The hearts to connect, spend time with
Mm,
loved ones, and to be mindful that some folks need some extra love and
mm, mm.
patience this season. Absolutely. Cheryl says, live the dream charm as I transition into my air quote retirement and begin to create my own coaching practice. I am truly living my dream. And I love it, Cheryl. And
Mm.
I see it in your face. I see that wide smile, which is amazing. We've got Sherry here as well. My metaphor is the anchor charm. As I've just relocated, I'm anchoring into a new home, city, and reconnecting with family since I am so much closer geographically to them. That's so good to hear, Sherry. I hope that you're well supported. And Lindsay is calling in today from Dublin. Michael, he'll see us in Sorrento. Um, Stephanie, oh, Steph's here. An era for reflection, time to define the direction of my new business and new
Mm.
products I can develop and the heart for doing what I love. For Lindsay, it's dark evening here, but not raining. And hi from Nihad from San Diego. So wonderful. Again, what I love about our community, and I know it's so hard these days to come together, is when we do get together. And so here's a bit of our agenda. We've done our welcome. We want to give you an opportunity as well to celebrate your wins. And this is going to be, hopefully you have a pen with you, or maybe your journal, and you can make some notes as you go. We're going to take a brief pause in just a minute to think about what your wins have been for this year, because I think sometimes in the disrupted space that we operate and live in, we can often get uh, very attracted to feeling that we don't get enough done. But I know for all of you, there have been some significant wins in this community over the last 12 months. Ivana's then going to take us into a brief highlight of one of our fun creative projects this year, which is the Coaching Many podcast. And I think it's actually resuscitated or reinvigorized our community. We go live every 2 weeks, and it's a new channel for people to really connect in to learn more about what is Coaching Many, what does group coaching do, what is team coaching, what's the difference? Because a lot of people still aren't getting it. Even coaches aren't still clear on it. So this is our creative journey. And I'm going to take a quick look back at some of the key themes for 2024, which interestingly, I'm going to take us back to an article that I put out a few years ago where the same themes are coming up, but I think some of these are going to emerge in even greater volume in 2025. Our work really through the Reconnecting Workspaces series is all about helping people thrive through change, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a team, whether you're a leader. And that's going to be a continued focus. As you heard from Evana about these writing sprints for the last almost 40 days now, every morning, typically either at 5:30 or 6 a.m., I'm hosting a call, a live call, and you're all welcome to join us before the end of the year on weekdays between 6 and 7 a.m. if you're up and free. But as you know, I love to write. And so one of the books that had to go on ice this year, and I'll say ice because it's been really cold here, has been my book that I started last year on coaching and change. And there just was
Mm.
too much in important things in my world to really keep writing through the year. But I picked it up 40 days ago and holding the space every morning, weekdays now, 6 to 7 a.m. typically, to have these writing sprints. And so we've got Ivana, we've had other people join us as well to just come and put some creative juice in the ecosystem. I will be bringing back in early 2025 the 25 for 25. And some of you were with me back in 21 for 21, where we did these work sprints, and it was amazing. People like Sherry, people like Mindy, you were here at that time moving through with creative projects. So just know that that's on the horizon. And we want to also resource you. So let's get going. And, again, invite for you to think about what do you want to celebrate as a win, big or small, from this year? What's the one thing? And I'm going to widen the screen if I can a little bit. Maybe you need an image to prompt you. Just take about 30 seconds to think about what's one of your wins that you want to celebrate for yourself. You don't have to share it with us live if you want to. It's your moment to do a humble brag, as the lexicon says today. So feel free to share that. But for you, please feel free to write it down in your journal or however you take some notes. We continue to learn so much about the power of images, right? Many of you have heard me talk about in years gone by, and we've even done a Draw Your Future process together, which is some work using or merging the visual facilitation with vision work. Creating those images creates a whole new energy. And you've heard my stories over the year, but here was one of my big wins this year at the beginning of the year. Actually, I was part of a Guinness World Record accomplishment. So I could add that to my name. I forgot that I even like this even happened and all that happened to me this year. But I got to join Patty Doblovolsky, who is one of my mentors, and really she is the creator of the Draw Your Future process. And when I first met Patty about 5 years ago, she's like, I really want to find a way to get this work out into the world at much greater scale. She partnered with an organization called Women in Tech, and there were more than 550 of us that came together in January 2024 to draw our vision maps for the year. It set a world record. First time so many people had come together doing vision work live on a Zoom, or I think it was on a virtual live stream. I think that's what the record is actually officially. But I've got that same piece of paper up over, if you can see the poinsettia over there in the corner, below that is my little map for 2024. And the notion, and Patty teaches this, like the notion is we want to keep those visions live. We want to keep them in front of us. Even in those moments where you might wonder, and I know there have been moments this year where I've wondered, what is going to happen next, especially for those of you that have had a loved one or a parent transition. It rocks your world. And yet the vision piece really helped keep me anchored. So as you look at your wins, as you look at your vision, please find a way to keep that living through the good and the challenging moments. If you haven't had a chance to look at our vision session, it is on YouTube. So head on over to Effective Group Coach after today's call. Look for the vision call. More than 76 people have looked at it as of this morning. And one thing I'll do is I'll put it in the list because I think most of you have signed up for the swag bag. The party is not done at the end of today. There are a few goodies that will come out to you in the coming days. It's probably not today, it's going to be in the coming days, but I want to share with you a resource I created earlier this year for 12 tools for not only coaching groups and teams, but growing your coaching business. And it was so popular and so valuable that I want to share that with you along with some of these other resources that we're talking about today. Now, the other thing that I've done for those that had entered before 11 a.m., we have the paper copy as backup, of course, but we also have the wheel. And I will be spinning the wheel 4 times this afternoon to find out who our raffle winners are. So this year, there's some really good prizes. If you are also here live on the call when Evana is speaking, I'm going to take everyone's name down, but I'm going to be raffling off 4 things this afternoon just before the top of the hour. Number one, a digital version of this card deck. So I've had fun this year also bringing some books into card form. These are actually the first deck of the 3-deck series of the 90-day guide for success. People don't have time to read books anymore. And so cards have really become an important tool for teams, for organizations, for leaders. Many of you are very well aware of the pain that people are going through in those first 90 days of their job. And so the 90-day guide I wrote 3 years ago, it came out in fall of 2021 as a book, which is in the cupboard. And it's been really popular. But I thought, what if we make it into a card deck? So we now have 3 of the card decks physically. And it's also digital. It's on an app. So I did a 5-day challenge earlier this fall in September introducing the app, but someone is going to be lucky to win deck number 1 on Deckable app. And you can use it in your own work. You can share it with clients. It's really a very cool tool. So that's actually prize number 1. Prize number 2 is a couple of layouts for the conversation sparker charm. So we use them at the start of the call. As I said, hundreds of these have been sold. It's very popular for coach training schools, actually. So I'll just put this in the ether. A lot of coach training schools are buying them as gifts to their graduates and alumni. What I want to give out today are some digital layouts. So if you win the draw for the charms layouts, you're going to get 3 layouts that you could be using with the charms on your Zoom or Teams calls. So that's a pretty cool one. And I'll hold there. So there's 2 other prizes. Also, Coaching Business Booster happening next Monday. It's going to be running from 11 to 6 from me. That is our water tower, actually, very close nearby, which is the lighthouse. And I'm going to be joining with people virtually. And I don't think we have anyone coming live through the snow to join me. But if you'd like to, join me Monday here in Barrie, Ontario, for the Coaching Business Booster, which is a program I launched last winter, actually. I was in Barbados. I think Evana was there. We had a few others there. Evana, how would you describe the day?
Uh, really hands-on, but allowing like the right brain, the creative, just really, really juicy. I know Kimberly was on with us too, if I'm not mistaken, Kimberly. I
Oh,
just found it really just great community, great vibes to break out in breakout rooms and keep the momentum. I think the word that I would use is momentum in a very small dose of 5 hours.
yeah. And so this year we're going to be, again, boosting your coaching business. And it's all about getting moving. Now, this year I've supplemented the day with a 2.5 hour content planning session. I think people loved that last year, but we only got so far in the time we had.
Mm.
And if Kimberly's here and you want to unmute, Kimberly, what did you take out of your participation last year?
Oh gosh, so much, so many things. I think it was kind of like forcing the hand to the stove is like, you think about these things all the time and allowing the space to actually do something with what you want to do. And I think it was just creating that space, that container, and giving permission, like you can sit and do something to get your business going in the right direction.
I
So
love that.
it was awesome.
And as always, Kimberly comes with her pink chair and her hot pink jacket. That is that is her brand. So it's good to see you, Kimberly. Kimberly won the draw last year, if I recall that, right? I think you won the raffle, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I
So
think I did.
yeah, so again, we're gonna have some lucky person, and I'm just looking to chat to see if anyone didn't sign up and wants their name on here. I'll do that, doo-dah.
I want my name on too, please.
Okay, Ivana, I'll
If
put
it's
you there when you
allowed,
start
if it's
speaking.
allowed.
The other one that is really big, and some of you may have heard that I launched the Amplify Coaching Biz Mastermind about a month ago. So this has been part of my vision for about 3 years now, and finally was able to get a small group together. These are coaches who are meeting with me every week, twice a week. We kick off the week Monday with some actual planning work. We wrap up the week with an hour and a half mastermind on Friday afternoon, but I'm going to be giving away a seat at that mastermind. So let's get some energy going, because that is very fun. We've got our programs coming up. Most of you have come to us through the Essentials pathway. Some of you have finished the whole pathway. We've got a number of you who are graduates of the entire either 70-hour pathway or 125-hour pathway. And that takes us into the landscape of superpowers, coaching diverse teams and groups, neuroscience learning, and also sorry, I'm just letting people in, neuroscience learning and experiential approaches. So if you haven't finished the pathway, consider joining us. And here's that vision call. Let us get into some reflection. And I think you've heard from me a lot. I think we're going to go to Evana for a minute. Let's go to you, Evana, to talk a little bit about the Coaching Money podcast.
Sure, sure. So first and foremost, I know some of you who have been through the programs with me because I've received your blended learning assignments. You've already been active in this conversation of the Coaching Money podcast. And for me, it really was part of what came out of actually the mastermind last year is really my visibility game. And so when Jennifer and I spoke, like, what do we want to create? Do we want to co-create something based on the conversations in our classrooms, but also our conversations beyond like our work here, but in the work that Jen does and the work that I do in my own coaching program, we created the Coaching Money podcast. And as Jen's already said, like this really is the conversation space where, we're having thought-provoking questions similar to, and I'm going to say this, I need to say this, like Jennifer was very provocative and even creating the first book on group coaching when a lot of her peers and colleagues were like, group coaching, no such thing, what? And so we really have brought this now to a podcast and having conversations that balance learning, education, value, but also sharing like what's in the marketplace. We actually we recorded an episode today on belonging, but we also talked about like, where does AI fit in belonging, right? How do we lean into this type of stuff? So as you can hear, my passion, I am thrilled to be on this project and creating this with Jen. And so those two QR codes, if you're not familiar with the actual podcast, that the one on the left will take you to the Apple, which is our most accessible way to, like, most people are viewing our podcast through Apple, but there's also the Spotify. So this is the listing here, and what you see on the right, to the right of the episode number these are the most viewed, watched episodes that are getting a lot of buzz. Okay. And so that's what I want to share with you. But I also want to tease you and sharing that the upcoming episode release dates are December the 16th and the 30th. One is on closures. How do you actually close programs, group coaching, team coaching, just closure of the year for that matter? How can we do that effectively? And then last one for 2024 is around practices. And this is what I want to say. I want to just make this human, because this is, as much as this is about, sharing what this great work is, I wanted to share a personal side note. Like, I'm going to say this very vulnerably. For me to host or co-host a podcast with Jennifer Britton, where was me stepping into big shoes. Jennifer Britton, like she's the maven of this world, of this work, And so to me, upping my game, getting in my plane to fly and soar really had to put me at the edge of my comfort zone. And I say this to you for all of you is like, that's what it looked like for me. And I want to encourage you, what does that look like for you? Because that's really what, to me, the symbol of this Coaching Many podcast and why I really half excited, scared to death, we'll say, is because I really wanted to support the work of and the impact that Coaching Many can have, both to myself, but also to our peer community, because you are our peers, but also that ripple effect. So I'm going to invite you, whether you're in our programs or not, go check it out. Okay. Lean in. This is another tool that you have available to you to develop your skill, your mastery, in group coaching. And I'm also going to say this, some of these topics are actually also really great because we're bringing real-time conversations of what's going on in the marketplace. And so we don't do a lot of that with great intention, but it does spill over, right, Jen? Like we're talking about what's happening in your conversations, what's happening in my conversations as it relates to coaching, but also as it relates to business, as it relates to anything. So just want to share that. And thank you, Jen. And Jen, if you'll give me another minute, I would love for if you can move to the next slide so we can talk a little bit about the fun stats, because I'm excited and thrilled to share some of this stuff. So ultimately, as you can see down below, and as I sent this to Jen 2 minutes later, I went, no, this is actually inaccurate. So we're on over 20 different platforms, but the actual downloads is actually inaccurate. And the reason is because YouTube is not calculated in that. So if we look at YouTube views, which are all of you beautiful people, we're actually over 1,500. We're over 1,500 episodes. And it's remarkable because, Jen, I think we launched in May or June, and
May
in
or
four
June,
or
yeah,
five
late
short
May,
months,
early June. Yeah. And
early June.
it was one of those things where we just sort of did it on a whim. I said, Ivana, I think we really need to get our message out
Yeah.
differently, right? People aren't reading email, like
Yeah.
it's people are too busy to come to the community calls. So I really think podcasting is just such an important vehicle. And I know Michelle Mullins, who was my
Mhm.
co-host for the Remote Pathways. Michelle is actually behind the scenes on this podcast,
Yeah.
supporting both Ivana and I with
Instrumental.
the actual like making taking our raw edits and feeding it through the systems. So we got to give a shout out to Michelle
Yeah.
as well.
She really does create magic behind an easy, Jen and I say have the easy work because we just get on the Zoom and chat and, bring our passions and our skills and knowledge. But without Michelle, and that really is that like that, who is that support behind you to fan your flame, right? And for us in the podcast reality, it's definitely Michelle Mullins. So wanting just to kind of bring some highlights. So like Buzzsprout is that hub sprout, we'll call it that HubSpot, and it really speaks to me, even we talk about this in group coaching essentials, and I think 99% of you are probably alumni, is that whole consistent and small steps. Jen and I meet every Tuesday. We get on, we record, we've got stuff in the bank, but they go out. So people really come to look for that episode every 2 weeks. But I'll tell you, it's the discipline of Jen and I getting on Zoom and really speaking to what's in the market. What does the community need? What are you thirsty for? And so I'm going to invite you all to go to chat and share with us what are the things that you want us to talk about. We
Yeah.
want to create a podcast that's actually powerful and impactful to your needs, your dreams, your desires, and that's what I would love to hear from each of you so we can integrate that in the upcoming list. And while you do that, on the right side, you can see we've hit 6 continents. In 5 months, we've hit 6 continents and the listing of our top 8 countries. So I'm going to say hip hip hooray to Lindsay, because Lindsay, I'm considering that you're part of the Ireland. So thank you.
I think I am Ireland.
She's
You are
Ireland.
Ireland,
I
and you're
love
definitely
it.
helping us be number 7. So thank you, Lindsay. But to all of you, whether you've actually watched an episode or not, I know, Krista, you're in Canada. Angie, you're in the US. You're all over the place. So thank you. Thank you, Cheryl, because I know you've watched this. So with that said, please share with us what you would love to hear from us. And I will share that stat, Angie, in just a moment. So Angie's like, what do the stats mean? For example, episode 1 under Apple. What that means is episode 1 and Buzzsprout is this is the most viewed episode. So Buzzsprout is the hub of all of them, and then we've broken it down to Apple, which is our most viewed, and then YouTube, which is where the hub of effective group coaching is. So we've just kind of split out some of the top rankings. So for those of you who've never watched an episode, you're like, well, which one might be worth watching? You might want to take a picture of this screen and see, oh, I'm going to start with this one because this is, continuously gets high views. That's why we're doing that. Does that answer your question, Angie? Awesome.
And there's some
Okay.
really good suggestions. Like I know Nihad, welcome because you're going to be joining us in the new year. But I love her suggestion of the group
Mm.
awareness or increasing group engagement, right? Because we are
Ooh.
seeing a drop off across the board in organizations, people, engaging. It's a real issue. Cheryl's saying, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to empower team leads, both in between coaching sessions and live in the sessions with all team members. Cheryl, we had a very lively conversation about that this week at Team Coaching Essentials. Yeah, I think we could sit down and Elham says, thank you, ladies. Always such great energy. Have to go, but to an appointment, wanted to pop in. Happy holidays. Yeah, we know so many of you are only here for a little bit.
Mm.
So please feel free to carry, this will be posted onto YouTube within probably a day and catch up on the end of it. And Lindsay from Ireland says, I would love to hear the personal stories of the highs and lows and how you overcame and adjusted. And what I love about podcasting is we can have this conversation. You could be listening to us on the treadmill or like when you're cooking or on, your
Oh,
your drive. A lot of people have said I love it because I can listen as I'm driving. So we want to continue to serve you. At the end of this year, I am putting to bed the 11 years of daily blogging at the Teams 365 blog. That blog is going to finally be put to bed
wow.
because, blogging, the world of blogging has changed. And as much as I'm a writer, here's the context piece. So thank you, Evana, for sharing that. If you were with us last year, you might recognize this. You might be like, isn't this what she talked about last year? We're going to segue for the next few minutes looking at some of the themes that are impacting our work, specifically as group and team coaches. And I think for many, regardless of where you are in the world, the balls continue to fall at different paces in so many different ways, creating just many different emotions, whether it's urgency, disruption, chaos, play, like what the heck is happening today? The context of our work is continuing to change. And so last year, I did a much longer presentation building on a Choice article. So, Choice Magazine is a great magazine. It's a quarterly journal that is put out by Gary Schleifer, the publisher. He's also in the Toronto area. But my 2022 article really looked at influences on group and team coaching. It was called The State of Union 2023 for group and team coaching. And in that article, I shared a little bit about the continued uncertainty. Now, keep in mind, this was 2 years ago. We were talking about continued uncertainty. Uncertainty is increasing in volume on so many additional layers now. Economic disruption, right? Think about where you were last year, the year before. Economic challenges are facing so many, which again is another reason that I am so excited to continue to be able to do this work in 2024. I came to coaching really envisioning a day when people of all different backgrounds, all different economic status would have access to a coach. Today, that sounds so commonplace, but 20 years ago, it was C-level, right? Like if you were like maybe a senior leader, you might get team coaching. Got coaching at the community level, never heard. But today we are seeing that. And I think people really are using coaching along with other mental health supports to help them navigate these tricky waters that we live in, regardless of our background, regardless of where we are in the world. Last year, I also mentioned, and this came out of the 2022 article, lack of trust. If we look at lack of trust levels, they continue to slide down, right? This year, I became a Gallup certified strengths coach because I've been using Gallup for 20 years, but really wanted to get deeper into their ecosystem. And so, what I love about Gallup is their database of research. And really this, it is an epidemic in and of itself, lack of trust. It's showing up at all different levels, and it's influencing not only our work, but I think our work does allow people to rebuild some of that sense of trust that many of us may have lost along the way. I know for me, even in navigating the healthcare system here in Canada, while it's so good, it's also not so great. And 2 years ago, really at my wit's end, looking at how could I get my parents to a place where they could be supported appropriately and medically. Again, my trust level at that time was low. It's back up, but we can all face trust issues. 2 years ago, I mentioned continued focus in our work as coaches on systems. I think systemic team coaching continues to really rally along. Many of you have gone on to do the practitioner program and deepen your learning that you started with us, as well as a focus on teaming. And so, our work with teams, just like teams continue to shift, our learning needs continue as well. And what's been interesting is we have had people go through the practitioner program. There are like 5,000 people who have gone through the coaching.com team coaching training in the last couple of years. Many are coming to us for their CCEs in that next cycle. So just know that all of our advanced courses are neuroscience learning and experiential approaches, the coaching diverse teams and groups, and Activate Your Superpowers program are ICF CCE approved. So if you are going for your ACTC or needing to renew that, because you will need to renew every 3 years with your ACTC, or you're doing your regular mainstream ACC, PCC, MCC, we hope that you'll consider one of those one-off programs, right? They're part of our learning pathway, but they're also part of the a la carte, as I like to say. Now, what's interesting and why I say we need this, and we'll continue to develop programming appropriately, because there's even more lack of trust at the end of 2024, huge engagement issues. And so I love seeing that was surfaced in our chat around a podcast. Burnout. Here in Canada, the burnout rates are 42%. That's an estimate. I was reading a post last night from a coach working in India. Their rate is closer to 62%. So what are we doing to really also equip ourselves with more around wellness, well-being, or having a network of coaches that can be tapping into that? One of the pet projects I want to take on in 2025, and I'm just surfacing it right now. I'm not sure how we will do it, but it will happen in some way. And I want to just put the seed out for all of you. We're getting more and more requests for how can I find coaches who do work in X, and not just one-on-one coaches, but group and team coaches. How can I find a group coach who specializes in well-being or resilience? How can I find a team coach who specializes in conflict? And so as a 2025 project, we will be doing something around that, maybe creating a directory or creating a hub so that you can also connect in with others, because I think a lot of coaches are also facing burnout, and we can mitigate against that through better work in co-coaching. So on that with co-coaching, and I get a couple of emails every month, when are you offering co-coaching essentials again, Jennifer? That program will come around again April, May of 2025. It will be a Friday morning, 10:05 to 11:35 course, and it is a course that I'll be offering once a year. But if any of you are doing co-coaching for 2025, definitely keep abreast with that. Because as people return to office, as people are, in some ways, the command and control is very much the leadership mantra at this moment in time. It may change. People are valuing the time that they can come to our rooms and speak without hesitation, speak in a safe environment. And I think that will continue to lead and mean that group coaching is very, very popular for teams, definitely, whether it's a systemic or non-systemic stance. Teams need the safe spaces to be looking at things as they go. So for yourself, think about the influences. I'd love for you to just share with us in chat. What's one thing that you want to learn more about, or you'd like more resourcing around? These, again, can be areas. I know I like Michael's question. Does a proficient coach really need to be a subject matter expert in a particular area? I think, Michael, we bring who we are, right? That is the baseline. We are not trainers. We really need to clarify that we're not training or consulting. And in that, we need to also bring whatever expertise we bring, right? I think we live in, and this is a debate point, as many of you know, I have always been against the niche, having one niche. This is a multi-niched business. We work with coaches, we work with leaders, we work with entrepreneurs. And that's because it reflects, originally as a founder, my own background. I have never worked in one domain. I'm a multidisciplinarian. And what is interesting in as we see the advent of AI, which is taking over a lot of the need for data and information, we need to get better as a human species in critical thinking and thinking across disciplines, in being able to connect A with B to create a C. That's innovation. And so my own personal philosophy and belief is, as coaches, we want to keep our eyes open to everything. We do also want to be aware of the best clients that we can serve. And I think with experience, we do develop certain expertise because of how we coach and who we coach and what we coach around. That's very different than 22, 23 years ago when I first started coach training, and the mantra was, you can coach anyone. Well, yes, I can coach anyone, but am I the best coach for everyone? I think that's a really important question for us to be asking. And as we continue to mature, which is something I just want to take you to, and we talk a little bit about this more at this moment in time, like our work really now, it's about meeting and having a pathway of learning and community, more importantly, for coaches like yourselves, whether you're in your first year of work or your 20th year of work. Coach mastery takes or happens across these different layers. Building your toolkit, building your skills through things like mentor coaching, through our product line, boosting the world of your clients. So to Michael's question, who do you work with? What do you, where is your passion? Do you want to always keep working with the same level of leader? Or do you want to also span your wings? Because what we do see in the industry is huge turnover. And I call it churnover, not turnover, but churnover every 3 years. And that's been pretty consistent over the last 15 years. To me, in my work as a mentor coach, as a coaching supervisor, I really do hear those fringes of burnout. And I think we as coaches need to continue to grow. And so that may mean not only like maybe you've specialized in coaching, like for me, coaching team leaders. I love coaching team leaders. I've never been a C-suite girl. I believe change happens at that team leader level. And while I continue to do a lot of coaching in that realm, I also love the work that I do with entrepreneurs. It's similar, but it's different, and it's a different niche. It's considered a different niche every time I get like something from ICF. Are you an entrepreneurial coach? Do you coach organizations? Do you coach couples? I always have to check a lot of boxes off if I'm allowed to. And, I think we can grow multi-niche as we establish ourselves. And that is really always an interesting debate, but you've got to have the business behind you, right? The challenge of growing multi-niche is you've got to have anchors in lots of different areas. And you can look at our business, which is not perfect. I think the one exciting project that I'm looking forward to moving on in 2025 is our websites. You will see new websites finally professionally done in 2025. So they're on their way. Where we've focused a
Jen?
lot this year, and I'll come to you, Evana, is on growth of self, right? How do you grow yourself, and how do you really grow yourself to meet the diverse needs of clients in the world? So I'm going to leave it at this. What are you noticing, Evana?
Well, what I'm noticing is the chat, because Angie had a question a few moments ago, and I promised her that we would address it. So I want to keep my word. And I know that there's some hands up, so others are also curious. This whole conversation, because it was on 2023 and it's also on 2024, is this word systems. And what does
Systems.
it mean in the
Yeah.
context? And Angie even says she wants to know more about when you say working with a team, whether it's with a system or non-systematic focus. Share more, please.
So I'm going to share more in the backdrop of some of the work that we've been doing. So as you know, right, teams operate within an ecosystem. Um, Working systemically on a very broad base means we're always keeping in mind the ecosystem in which we're operating. If you have a copy of Coaching Business Builder or Plan, Do, Track, all of section 4 is dedicated to what I have always historically called the context or the ecosystem. Where the coaching profession is going is calling it systemic. So a systemic coach of any derivative, and there are schools that just do systemic team coaching, but a systemic coach will always keep in mind the landscape in which they operate within. They take their stakeholders into mind. They really look at how the system, which could be the organizational culture, it could be the geographic location, but how that is interplaying and interweaving with the team that you're operating with. We've always had a systems view. I wouldn't call it systemic view, but we've had a systems view because certainly my work as a grad student in the early 1990s, heavily infused by the writing and research by Peter Senge. Peter Senge is often known as the grandfather now of systems-based thinking and learning. And with my own work as a practitioner at the community level and in economies that were typically in transition, we cannot operate sustainably without keeping the system in mind. So this is a great big episode. I think we're going to do a whole episode, I think, on this on our podcast. I think that would be really good. There are, as I said, coaching models like Peter Hawkins' work, right? Peter's work is all about systemic team coaching. He has a registered, trademark on that, and he has a very specific element. But if we look at it, there's also what we've been teaching as well has been systemic as a foundation, but not as a front layer to the episode. What I think is important is there's an amazing range and array of great training. For the last 4 years, Peter, David, myself, Marissa, we've all been meeting in different ways to look at how do our different coach training schools also offer different types of training. And so for our work, right, we have always been typically virtual in nature, working with global teams. We are one of the few organizations that has always had that capability. It's the global focus. And as a global team, you're operating in different systems, which takes the conversation around systems to a whole other level compared to a group that might be, or a team that might be intact in one local level environment. So that's the fast way of describing it. I personally went through the practitioner program with Peter, and I'm supervising on that whole program as well. And I think it's really valuable, and it's really valuable for in-person. As many of you know, we work across geographic boundaries, and the system piece is there in a much different layer of complexity. So we might often put it in the background to focus more on the individuals. Now, how that plays in as well is how do we show up and hold the range, which is why I took us to superpowers. So Angie, I'd love for you just in chat to see if that was like giving a little bit of landscape. It's a very long answer, but we will address this more. As a coach, I think at the end of the day, we always need to really take time to define who is the entity that we're working with. Is this a team? Is this a group? Am I doing any individual development in a team system, which may be appropriate if you have a team member in Asia, a team member in Australia, a team member in Africa, a team member in Italy, just like we operate, right? We are not one system as a team. We operate in all different systems. And so if I were coaching this team, we would probably agree that systemic and systems elements are in the background, and we want to develop ourselves as individual contributors with the same mandate of the team focus. So it's a great question. Lots of books written on it. David Clutterbuck's book, which came out about 4 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. It's a big tome. And David had 21 of us writing on team coaching. I think it's called the Handbook of Team Coaching. Very expensive, but I think you can get it much cheaper on Kindle. But definitely something to read through and read about, because there's been a lot of research, especially in the last few years, around systemic team coaching. And if we see many of the issues of complexity, right? My writing right now is taking us into coaching around, rebuilding, right? My technical expertise is how do we rebuild nations post-disaster? Whether it's something like we saw in Asheville, whether it's economic changes that we're seeing that are going to require rebuilding, how do we use coaching as an approach. And I think it's not just one doorway we need to go into, but we need to keep going back to the basics. So I'm taking us into a new piece of writing that you'll see published next year through a book with Routledge. And it's a compendium with many other authors. It is the Nonad of group coaching. And many of you have joined us for elements where we've looked at like the best practices, but what are the principles in which we want to operate? And you're going to notice here, like a systems piece behind the backdrop, right? Our work is always client-centered. It's got to be that long-term partnership and co-creation. As a group coach, we need to be very aware that our stance is integral in creating that hub on a wheel. If we're not showing up well, if we're not aware of what our natural style is, so back to the superpowers, we may be creating a wobbly wheel because as groups start to form, right? They come together for shared interest, but they will be disbanding at the end of the day. That is different than a team coaching engagement. And so I think we, in our current stage of the world of coaching, we need to get better at explaining and understanding what is the difference between the stance of a team coach and what is the difference with the stance of a group coach. They are not the same. And I think there's current discourse that I'm going to be addressing where it's always like, oh, a team is a group. A team is not always a group. And a coach working with the team as a system needs to be very discerning about that. So there is a difference between these two sub-disciplines. A group coach stance is very different than a team coach stance. And we need to be very clear on what we are doing and how we are designing our agreements with clients. In the group coaching realm, it really is about that deep peer-to-peer connection and belonging, which I think will continue to increase in volume as lots of different forces continue to shape our world, from AI to geopolitical events that are happening. As a coach, we want to hold our clients creative, resourceful, and whole. I think many of you coach with a capital C and you're not consulting. And we want to also help make sure that we're going below the waterline with those clients. What are the belief systems? What are the assumptions that are being made? What are the mindsets? And so as a coach, are you just always on that results level that we can see? Or are you helping them go into those invisible, often unconscious or subconscious areas like mindset? As we grow in maturity, I think we spend a lot more time below the waterline. And it will take us into the being, it'll take us into the awareness realm, as well as the doing and the action. At the end of the day, we are not the entity that we're coaching. We're not even often part of the same system, right? And so how do we remain unattached to the outcome? This is a hard space for many of us. You know, as my family calls me, I'm a cynic, but I'm an idealist. I want the world to be a better place at the end of the day. My life's work has been about helping communities achieve their own goals. And it's not about me, right? It's the community, it's the team, it's the group that I'm working with. And so how do I self-manage? Even if I see something or think that, you know, maybe you should be doing this, that's not my role as a group team coach. It is their future, it is their pathway. And so being unattached to the outcomes in times of complexity and change can be a real growth edge. And in the writing that I'm doing right now around coaching as a vehicle for change, capacity development, and culture, it's an important, I think it's an important next step of where we're going to be called forwards. So part of last year's message, which I want to leave you with today, is like, let's get back to the basics, right? We can really get complicated on like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Well, let's spark the conversation with our clients. Let's ask them, what is working? What is not working? What do you need me to do differently in order to support you in a changing environment? There's so much great learning that you can do, so many great tools, but at the end of the day, as we were talking about, even in one of the rooms that I was hosting this week, it's just about going back to the basics. It's about getting into the things like questions, etc. So last year we had the luxury of 3 hours of calls. This year we decided we just do an hour. I decided we just do an hour because it's hard to focus and even have time. But I wanted to spotlight last year's holiday party. I'll include it in the gift bag virtually because we went last year into some really important areas that we've been talking about today. We did some work around values. We did some work last year in the party around strengths. And strengths, if you have the Coaching Business Builder, again, go to section 4. In that, I articulate this, the bridge between strengths, ecosystem, and really, capacity as a coach. Last year, we also talked about some of the myths. I think Evana and I will do a future episode about myths that are changing as it relates to coaching in the next few episodes, probably spring 2025. You'll see that. And we continue to move forward on our fun tool project. So one thing that's arriving within the next few days, we do have a postal strike here, but the couriers are still working, albeit slower. I'm really proud to say that this old prototype of the Reconnecting Workspaces dice set is now going to be a new product launching in the next few weeks. I've been playing with these for the last 3 years in team rooms, leadership rooms, and also our creative Sparker hubs. And people are finding that they are an amazing resource. So stay tuned for that because we all need something different in our toolkit to go forward. So I want to now move us into the final piece, which hopefully will support you in business growth, right? A big part of the work we do is also around supporting coaches. Whether I have been a mentor coach for you or other, it's about how do we help you do your best work. So, Ivana, we're going to do our little draw. I think we've got about 5 minutes left. I hope you can hang on. I'm going to get you to write these names down because I will
Sure.
forget who they are. I've put everyone's name. Was there anyone else who wanted to be added that was not signed up as of 11 o'clock this morning on the swag bag list? We'll
Let's
do a last
see.
shout out.
Wait. Put
Anyone
your
else want to
hand
be
up
added?
or do a digital hand so we can capture you if you would
Yeah.
like to be added to the goodie bag and you know that you haven't been added yet.
I've got a list of about 40 people here, and I think most people
Okay.
are here, but let me just give one last shout out. Yeah, anyone?
No digital
No.
hands or hands up on the screen, Jen. So
Okay,
I
so
think
I'm
we're all
using
here.
this fun, it's the wheel of names. Some of you might be
Okay.
familiar with it. We're going to spin. There's going to be a little sound. So we're going to do our first draw for the digital version of the card deck, the 90-day guide, or you could choose actually the Activate Your Superpower Guide deck. This is going to be on Deckable. So I'm going to send the winner a coupon code. You will need to download the Deckable app and use the coupon to access that. I don't host it. Deckable hosts it, but it's a really fun app. It allows you to view the cards and also journal on the cards digitally. So drum roll, please. Give us your best drum roll. Do, 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 do. I'm spinning. You can't hear it. But the winner of this is Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Stephanie. And that Stephanie Burke, you are the only Stephanie in the pile.
There we
Congratulations, Steph.
go.
Okay, I'm going to remove you, Steph, from the list. You can only
Okay.
win once. So this is our second prize. This is for the Charms layout virtually. And that is going to Zoe. I don't think Zoe is with us, but Zoe, I will be in contact with you. Okay. Is there
Wonderful.
something added to the chat? Just let me know.
Just Michael congratulating Stephanie.
All right. So
Stephanie,
Zoe,
can you?
congrats on getting the Charms digital layout.
Yeah.
This next one, really big. It is for the Coaching Business Booster, a seat on Monday, December 16th from 11 to 3 p.m. If you can't join us, we'll record and send you the recording, but hopefully you are wanting to grow your coaching business. So I'm going to remove Zoe, and we are going to now go into the Coaching Business Booster. And it is going to da 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 Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Now, Jocelyn, I didn't see Jocelyn here. She's an alumni from our Coaching Biz Growth Lab a couple of years ago. So she'll probably be happy
Wow.
to join us. And now the big one. So the big one, this is for a seat at the mastermind with me Mondays and Fridays until the end of June 2025. The mastermind will run a couple times a year, but this is for our next mastermind. Put good intentions out for those that want to join me for this program, and big drum roll, please. This is going to go to Moki. Moki.
Okay.
I don't know who Moki is. If for any reason Moki is not able to receive that, I will do another. I'm going to keep this list and I will do another draw. I'll do it. I'll put it online. So Moki, I do not know, but she signed up today. So with that, thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop my share and just see what is your takeaway from today. Let me unpin us so we can actually see everyone. And what is your takeaway from today? You've spent an hour with us, so thank you. Anyone willing to unmute and give a voice? Michael says, thank you so much. So much good information, positive vibes. That's what we like to do, Michael. Yep. Hello. Anyone else want to say something?
It's Kimberly. Kimberly had her hand up. Yeah.
Kimberly.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Jen. I know I haven't taken a class recently, but I am an alumni of many classes of Jen's, and they're all amazing. And that how you continue to evolve and grow and create more offerings for coaches. So I just want to thank both of you and Evana, for all the great work that you do.
Well, thank you. Again, we're going to be inviting you. We haven't been doing the community calls for a while because we found that people weren't coming, but I would love to maybe host in 2025 a quarterly drop in, something like this where maybe it's an hour and we also tackle some of these questions that come up. So that might fall on a Tuesday at noon. We've found that the Tuesday 12 to 1 p.m. slot is good because we want to keep giving back to you. We're not just here to make money as a business. We're really here on the mission to change the way the world works through conversation with teams and groups. And so we want to continue to support you in your evolution. When you join us, we love that. And your alumni as well. So any other reflections on today? What was valuable from today's 1 hour together?
Jen, I'll share. We've got some good topics for upcoming episodes, thanks to this amazing community who joined us today. So thank you. And stay tuned for the order and sequencing. That's my takeaway is I've saved the chat list and now I got to put this together for us.
I was going to say, please save the chat list. Always a good thing to be able to save. So if you'd like to save it, if you've been here, thank you all. I also want to give a shout out. Kathy Vaughn, many of you know her. She provided so much support. She's in England today. And just want to give a shout out to all that Kathy has done this year to support us, as well as Rita, who was doing a lot of support up until the middle of the year. So be well, everyone. If you didn't win, you never know because I will reach out to Moki. I may be doing a second draw later today if Moki is not able to join us for the mastermind. All right. Thank you. Be well. Have a wonderful holiday season. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.